Hi there everyone, it's Joe, and this video I've been really nervous to make actually for a little while, but I wanted to list what I felt was the top 10 cards in Opus 1. Now this is very controversial and just because it's my opinion, and I don't expect anybody to necessarily agree with what I'm going to say, nor do I expect people to kind of jump down my throat and say, hey, you're wrong, because at the end of the day I'm as entitled to my opinion as anybody else. And I've played this game quite a lot at this point, so I'd like to kind of share my thoughts with you guys as to what I felt the most prominent cards in the game were. So let's just jump straight in, and I'm going to start at number 10, which is Lann. Now Lann I think is probably the best forward for fire in the game right now, purely because it's so damn difficult to get away from him. By being able to dodge anything bigger than him and still be able to block anything smaller than him, it's just he gets the best of both worlds. I mean, his downside isn't a downside. He doesn't block anything that would kill him. That's fine. And then because of the way that he interacts with his sister Rain, and he has a combat trick that looks really expensive on paper, like 2 crystal points and Dull Rain, what it actually does is it means that he beats anything that can trade with him at 7k. So realistically, you don't want him to be bigger, but because then it means that more things can block him, but he doesn't have to be, and that's great. And it means that late game, once sort of big units start coming down, Lann just ignores them entirely, and I just think the card is just extremely good. In my number 9 slot, I've gone for Legendary Squall, and that's because I think he is Ice's best card, his best forward at the very least, if not card. I think that the value you get out of Squall is crazy. For a 3-drop 6k that can deal another 6k to anything that he blocks or is blocked by, he just deals so much damage for something so cheap. And he can trade with Prishes, and like I was going to put Prish on this list, but then I realised how much there is that can get around Prish. Even though I think that she's an amazing card, there are a lot of cards that I think are amazing in this game, and I can only fit 10 in here, so please don't be mad at me if I've missed anything. But Squall I just think is a staple for any ice deck. If you can get hold of him, he's a pain in the butt to get hold of because he's legendary, but oh my god, he's so good. And the chances are that in Opus 2, he's only going to get better because it's FF8 centric and Squall is on the cover of the box. So if he's not got even more support in the next set, I'd be absolutely stunned. And that S ability is just brilliant. In my number 8 slot, I've gone for Zidane. Now, I really tossed it up between Lann and Zidane as to which one I thought was better, and I think Zidane ever so slightly edges it out simply because he costs 2. Like, he could be played at the first turn of the game with no questions asked. You drop 1 card, play Zidane, and you've already applied pressure to your opponent. They have to do something that turn, otherwise they're taking damage, and they're going to be taking damage for a while. He also means that you can concentrate all of your resources on killing the cheap guys that are blocking you, because he doesn't give a flying monkeys about the big ones that they're spending loads of crystal points on, because he just ignores them entirely. So I just don't, there's so many good decks that revolve around characters like Lann and Zidane by having unblockable, but the fact that you can't target him with anything but area of effect damage, which doesn't work very well on anything else, just means that the card is really good. He only has one viable counter once you put a Maria on the board, and that's Cloud. And Cloud is on this list, don't worry, I'm not stupid. But he's like, there's so little you can do to Zidane apart from playing lots of cheap guys, which your deck may not be geared toward to deal with him. So yeah, he's definitely on this list. And the next slot is going to Legendary Lightning. Now, be honest, I didn't really like Legendary Lightning when I first played her because I thought that she was a bit expensive for what she did. Now, I think that Tidus and Lightning have the same problem, which is they have this horrible little bit in the middle where you pay for the effect and you don't get the effect until later. That being said, Lightning, when she gets her effect off, is brutal, and she has the decency to go searching for one of the better spells in the game, which is Odin. You go search for a kill spell, and she is a kill spell on legs that when she's done the bit that she needs to do, she can continually smack your opponent across the face until they die, and there's not a lot your opponent can really do about it. She's just a death machine, and she's extremely good at it. The next card is one of my favourite cards, and it's something that I honestly don't understand why I don't see hundreds of this card being played. I mean, I think that Yuna, the hero Yuna, is exceptional. Now, I think the bounce effect in this game are extremely strong anyway, because they don't target anything specific. Like Odin targets anything that's 4 or less, Alexander targets anything that's 4 or higher, and it just means that there's so many awkward scenarios where you might not get to play what you want to, whereas Yuna, that doesn't matter. You will always get to play it, and that the passive effect that she has counters so many things. Golbez, Emperor, Vanille, Geomancer, there's just, you could go on for ages, and she's just so good, and because she's a big backup, it's very difficult to get rid of her. There are only 4 cards total in the game, including Promo Sephiroth, that can destroy backups at all, so she's really hard to get rid of once she's there. And she can buff Pain and Riku just by being there. I know a lot of people use the 2 CP unit for that, and I understand completely why. The 5 CP unit is good on her own. She doesn't require the combo requirements, so yeah, she is definitely on this list. Now, this was the slot that I really wanted to give to Prish, but I'm giving it to Tama instead, because I think Tama is the part of the reason that I played Prish that made her what she was. Now, Tama is useful in any deck that can play it. She's so powerful. I run her in every time I run Earth. She's just the ability to play your forwards during your opponent's turn, or even during their attack phase. They go in with a guy, they cannot be sure whether their attack is safe or not, because they don't know if you're just going to flash in some guy, or even worse, something like Cloud of Darkness or Shantoto that wipes their board entirely. It's just, there's so much utility, and because Tama kills herself when you use her, you can then play a different backup later that you might make more use of, or even another Tama. Just, if you're playing an Earth deck, I cannot stress enough just how powerful Tama is, and you should be running at least 2 of her in every Earth deck, in my opinion. Now, this card was majorly, I think, overreacted to when the game came out, and to the point where, because people were complaining about him so much, I made a deck to kill him, and it's Minwu. Now, Minwu is on this list for a reason. He's really, really powerful. Like, he completely no-sells certain aspects of the game. Like, burn effects don't do an awful lot while Minwu's on the board unless they're huge, like Bahamut or Brynhilda can get away with it most of the time, but if you're planning on playing bigger forwards, then Minwu just protects them from practically anything that doesn't instantly kill them. So Fire ends up having a real struggle against you, and a lot of Winds cards are completely just written off. Ishtola is crap because of this card. I mean, she's not great anyway, but she's really not good because of this card. And there's just so many ways to play it. You can play Yagorosh to protect it. It's something that just goes in the deck, and you don't really even have to pay that much attention to it. It's just a passive effect that swings advantage your way in such a massive way. You kind of just have to run it if you're running water. Now, there's one card that I think that you run in every water deck that isn't Minwu, and it's Leviathan. Now, this will probably ruffle some feathers. I think Leviathan is the best summon in the game, purely because people will argue that Odin's better, people will argue that Moogle is better, but there is next to no situation where you don't want a Leviathan in your hand. It doesn't, like I said with Yuna, it doesn't restrict you on what you can target with Leviathan. You can target your own guys with Leviathan in order to save them from something that costs a lot more than he does. Say your opponent plays a Shantoto and tries to wipe the board, you just Leviathan your guy back to your hand and yours is safe. Or the fact that it's an EX burst as well also makes a huge difference, because a lot of the sort of kill spells like Odin and Bahamut aren't EX bursts, therefore they can't trigger when you need them necessarily, and just by having 3 copies of Leviathan in your deck, your health is just that much safer. So I just absolutely think that Leviathan is the best summon in the game. You are welcome to contest that in the comments below, but I feel very strongly about it. Now, a lot of people would probably put this at the number 1 slot, and although I have heard a lot of people who tell me that this card is bad, and I hate to say it, but I just don't think that that's correct. And that's because I think that he's the best forward in the game, bar none, and it's Light Cloud. I think until we get more light and dark forwards, I think Cloud sets a standard for a colourless unit that can go in literally any deck. There is very few decks that can't run Cloud, or shouldn't even run him, because he's just that good. The ability to have AoE damage on tap is very strong. He's the only true counter to Zidane, and he can just kill a guy whenever he wants. He's a brave attacker. He has everything. There's nothing bad about this card. He costs very little for his power. He's on the curve. He's got extra abilities. This card has everything, and honestly, until something better comes along in terms of light or dark cards, I don't see any reason why I would run them over Cloud. Now, before I go into my number 1 slot, I do have a few honourable mentions, and these are honourable mentions not in my top 10 list, not because I necessarily think that they are worse than the cards that I've presented, but because I've not had enough opportunity to play against them to prove their potential. Now, I've been experimenting a lot with Bahamut because I know that he's very popular in Japan, and I've actually found he is very good and could well end up on this list very quickly. Golbez is also another card that's very popular in Japan, and he I don't see yet, purely because there aren't enough viable targets for him. Give it a couple of sets and oh my god, yes, I can totally see it, but right now I think it's too easy to counter him by way of things like Yuna. Prish is another card that counters him very well because she could just block everything he summons and should also be on this list but is now an honourable mention. Both copies of Odin are very, very strong. Hekaton is a card that obviously most Earth decks run in some form or another. There's just so many good cards in this game, and one of the best things I like about it is that some of the best cards in the game are actually commons and uncommons, and they're not all, oh my god, I have to go and spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on my deck. I think it's one of the best things about this game, and it's something that I really love sharing with people because I think that it's a really good thing. Now then, my number 1 slot. There's only one thing that I think can beat Cloud, and honestly, it's not a forward, it's a backup. And I think that that card is Aerith. And like I said just a minute ago, I think the fact that she's just a rare is completely obscene. This card does so much for you. She is free. She comes in and she activates 3 of your backups, so late game you can play her, untap all your cards, and you just carry on as if nothing had happened. And that is a lovely card in and of itself, but then you read her other ability, and it's the ability to activate all of your forwards and give them all untargetability for the rest of the turn. So it's, you can counter something with, say a Cloud's on the board wants to kill one of your guys, you just go, nope, don't care about it. Or worse, if they pay all in into a Bahamut and then you just go, nope, sorry, you've just wasted 3 cards in your hand. She's just so good. And I think that she is the reason to run Wind right now, because Wind's forwards, bar Zidane, aren't particularly special right now, but this backup, girl, under Wind, she's just so good, and like I would splash Wind just to play this card, and honestly, I think very strongly that Aerith is probably the best card in the game. Think very strongly that probably, see? But I would really love it if you guys could share your thoughts on this matter as well, because like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't expect you guys to all agree with me. You may think I'm completely wrong, just be nice about it. And I would love to hear from you. So like I said, leave something in the comments below, or get hold of me on Facebook. I'm on the TCG Fans page if you want to tag me in anything and let me know. Other than that, I really hope that you've enjoyed this video, and maybe it's giving you a bit of incentive to go and perhaps look for some of these cards you didn't think of before. And subscribe to the channel and share this video with anyone else you know who plays the Final Fantasy TCG, and it would be really awesome to see you guys soon. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you guys soon now. Bye!